Well, welcome everybody. My name is John. I'm one of the pastors here, and I just want to thank you for joining us today. Before we jump into the message, we got a few announcements. Starting February 15th, we're starting a new ministry here called Dragon Games. It is tabletop RPGs that is used as a discipleship tool. Anyway, we're going to be doing it bi-weekly. We'll be meeting right here at the church. If you're not familiar with what tabletop RPGs are, it's similar to Dungeons and Dragons, if you've heard of that. I know that gets a bad rap sometimes, but this is very Christian-based. And it is a discipleship tool that we will be doing. 6 p.m. is when we're starting, 6 to 8. And we'll have food, and it is free. You don't have to bring anything. We'll have dice, everything that you need to play will be here provided for you. If you have your own, feel free to bring it, though, if you would like. Whoa, knocking my thing down. So I'm super excited for this because I'm a giant nerd, and I love playing these types of games. So it does say teens, tweens, and families. Really, all ages can come. I just didn't want a bunch of 40-year-old dudes showing up. Yeah, that's fine. But anyway, so super excited for it. We've been getting... ordering the stuff for it, getting ready to go, and I've made a few posts on Facebook about it. And so we are partnering with another church doing this, and so I will be here running it here, but the guy being that's running the campaigns, he will be videoing in. He's from the other church, and this Dragon Games is worldwide. They have a group in Singapore, a group in Scotland, a group in starts with a B. Anyway, another country. And then there's here, we're starting one here. There's one in Thornton, Colorado, and then Troy, Ohio is where it all originated from. So anyway, if you want more information about that, let me know. You can sign up at Dragon Games svc@gmail.com or text that number. And that's, you don't have to, you can just show up that night. You don't have to sign up ahead of time. But anyway, we were just kind of wanting to get an idea of how many to expect. So. Also, Bible study is at 9 a.m. on Sunday mornings. We will be, for now the third week in a row, or fourth week because we skipped a week, wrapping up our study on Galatians. We've been having a lot of good discussion about it, which is why it's what should have been the last week has taken so long, but that's okay. And then after that, we will be starting what we're calling Traders 101, and this will just be a walk through what we believe as a church and as a denomination. And then at the end of it, if you want to become an official member of the church, you will have that opportunity to do that. So what does official membership get you? Well, it gets you not a lot at this church because we're not big enough to hold votes and things like that, but if we ever make it to that point, that means you will be able to vote in board members. If I ever leave here and a new pastor comes in or something, things like that. It also allows you to be on the board. You have to be a member to be on the board too. So, any kind of leadership position or anything like that, the denomination has like a discipleship. It's called NDI, Nazarene Discipleship International. If you want to be, you can be like a president of that. You have to be a member. Anyway, lots of things to be an official. That doesn't mean you can't come to this church, and that's fine. Lots of people do that, and they don't want to necessarily become a member because maybe they don't believe exactly everything that we believe in our doctrine of faith, and that's fine. There's various views on things, and so that's why we're going through it. And even if you don't believe exactly the same thing that we believe, you're still welcome to come here, but you just can't be a member. Not that you can't be a member of the church, but anyway, I'm rambling now, so I'm just going to move on. It's Tuesday nights at 7, Celebrate Recovery. This is for anybody struggling with life's hurts, hang-ups, or habits. It starts at 6:30 with a meal, and then the official group start time is at 7 p.m., so we'd love to have you join us for that. If you're new and would like to get updates, you can text new here to 833-212-0750. This is our text line. And all that does is it just kind of, it signs you up for, I think it's 6 messages that go out over the next couple of weeks talking about what Traders Church is about and things like that and how to get connected and all of that. That same text line, 833-212-0750, that's if you text LOOP, L-O-O-P, to that line, that just signs you up to get messages when I send out, when church was closed last Sunday, I sent that out via this group. I also send the sermon recording out every week, so if you guys want to go back and rewatch that and maybe catch some stuff you didn't catch the first time around, it'll be there. Or you can just go to YouTube. It's on YouTube. I share it on Facebook too, but you can just go to YouTube and find it, Traders Church. Just search Traders Church and subscribe, because I need 50 followers to go live on YouTube. And so I tried that first last weekend when I went live from my living room, but that didn't work, so I did Facebook. But all right, moving on. So today we're beginning a 3-week series called Love Has a Name. Before we dive into it, I want to ask you a question. Do you struggle remembering people's names? Yeah. That's something that I work hard at, is to try to remember people's names, especially once I became a pastor. And if I'm honest with you, it doesn't always come naturally. It takes an effort to try to remember people's names. It takes an intentionality. But I work at it because I know something important, and that is when you remember someone's name, you're telling them that they matter. So I've made it a personal discipline to remember names because I've been on both sides of the equation. I know what it feels like when someone remembers my name, especially when I didn't expect them to. Maybe it's been months since we've seen each other, or maybe we've only met one time, and they walk up to me and without missing a beat, they say, "Hey, John, it's good to see you." And it feels good when somebody does that. You feel seen, you feel noticed, you feel like you matter. But now flip it around. When somebody forgets your name, or worse, when they never even took the time to learn it in the first place, that makes you feel invisible or unimportant, like you're just another face in the crowd. And so that's why I work at it, and I don't get it right all the time. But names matter, because people matter. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And the truth we're going to unpack together is that love starts with a name. A name isn't just a label, it's a doorway. It's an entry point into someone's life, into their world, into their story. And so learning a person's name is often the very first step to beginning a relationship with that person. And then from that initial point of learning someone's name, that relationship can grow. When someone knows your name, it makes you feel loved, noticed, and seen. And when someone knows and remembers your name, it gives you worth. It gives you value. And so this is what a name actually represents. It represents who they are. It represents their past, good and bad. It represents their successes and their screw-ups, their background, their upbringing, their occupation, where they come from, who their parents are. A person's name is their story. And it all matters. But here's the best news you're going to hear all day. Jesus knows your name and he knows your story. And he loves you. Not the version of you that you present to everyone else, not the cleaned up, put together, I've got it all figured out version. He knows the real you, the whole story, and he loves you anyway. So today we're going to look at a story where Jesus does something that absolutely scandalized the religious people of the day. And he's going to call someone by name. Someone whom the whole town despised. Someone who had probably gotten used to being invisible or worse. And Jesus is going to show us what it means when we say love starts with a name. This is actually the same story we started our Renewed series that we just finished with a few weeks ago in the Renewed Spirit sermon. And it's the story of a man named Zacchaeus. We're going to see how Jesus loved him, and then we're going to talk about a very specific challenge for each of us today. Because if we really believe that love starts with a name, then we've all probably got work to do. So we're going to be in Luke chapter 19, starting in verse 1, and this is what it says. Jesus entered Jericho and made his way through the town. There was a man there named Zacchaeus. He was the chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. He tried to get a look at Jesus, but he was too short to see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and he climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road, for Jesus was going to pass that way. And when Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. Zacchaeus, he said, quick, come down. I must be a guest in your house today. Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house in a great excitement and joy. But the people were displeased. He's gone to be a guest of a notorious sinner, they grumbled. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, I will give half my wealth to the poor, Lord. And if I have cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much. Jesus responded, salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham, for the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost. All right, so let's set the scene here a little bit. Jesus is passing through this city named Jericho. Jericho was a major city. It would have been bustling with commerce and trade. And in this city, there's a man that we need to meet. His name is Zacchaeus. And Luke tells us something important right away, that Zacchaeus was a tax collector. But not just any tax collector, he was the chief tax collector. Now Luke, if you read the Gospel of Luke, you will notice that he puts lots of details in there. And those details are not put in there by accident. So when you see a detail like he's the chief tax collector and he was very rich, there is a point behind that. And so let me help you understand what that means. Because in first century Israel, the tax collectors were hated. And I don't mean, well, we don't really like that guy kind of hated. No, I mean a hated like despised, loathed, and even ostracized. And the reason for that was because they were Jewish men who worked for Rome, which was the occupying power of the time. And the Jews didn't like that. But even worse, they got rich by overtaxing their own people and pocketing the difference. And so imagine someone in your community who sells out their neighbors to profit from their oppression. That's a tax collector. But Zacchaeus, he's the chief tax collector. He's not just a jerk, he's the chief jerk. He's the head of the entire operation. He's the guy who organized the system that's been stealing from everyone. And, oh, by the way, he's filthy rich because of it. And so you've got a traitor who's wealthy from his betrayal, which gives them even more reason to hate him. And so picture that in your mind. Everyone in Jericho knew his name, but it wasn't in a good way. When people saw Zacchaeus coming, they probably crossed to the other side of the street. When he walked in a room, conversations probably stopped. He had a name, all right, but his name was associated with greed and betrayal and corruption. This was a guy that nobody wanted to know. This was a guy whose name people probably spit out like a curse word. But here's what happens. Somehow Zacchaeus learns that Jesus is coming to town. And something happens inside him. Maybe it was a curiosity. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was hope that he didn't even realize that he needed. But Zacchaeus decides that he really wants to see Jesus. And so verse 3 says, he tried to get a look at Jesus, but he was too short to see over the crowd. And so, again, we learn something else about Zacchaeus. He was really short, very short. In fact, you might refer to him as a wee little man, as the children's song said. Bob told me I needed to sing that. But I didn't grow up in Sunday school, so I don't really know the song. I've heard it. But because he's such a wee little man, he can't see over the crowd to get a glimpse of Jesus when Jesus comes to town. So imagine this. Here's this powerful, wealthy man, someone who probably has intimidated people just due to his position, and he can't even see over the crowd. The very people whose money he's been taking are now physically blocking his view of Jesus. And there's kind of some poetry to that. But what does Zacchaeus do? Does he give up? Does he use his authority to demand the people move? No, verse 4 says that he ran ahead and he climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road, for Jesus was going to pass that way. Now let's think about that for a second. We have a wealthy, powerful man. He was probably wearing expensive robes, and he's running through the street and then climbing a tree like a child. That would have been seen as undignified. Zacchaeus was desperate. This was a man who wants to see Jesus so badly that he doesn't care what anyone thinks anymore. Now, maybe he had spent years not caring what people thought because he had already accepted their hatred. But maybe this was different. Maybe for once he was willing to look foolish for something that actually mattered. So here he is, chief tax collector Zacchaeus, up in a sycamore tree, hoping to just catch a glimpse of Jesus. And then this happens. Verse 5, when Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. Zacchaeus, he said, quick, come down, I must be a guest in your home today. Wait, what? Don't miss that. Jesus knows his name. He doesn't say, hey, you up there in that tree. He doesn't say, excuse me, sir. He looks up and he says, Zacchaeus. Think about that. Here we are in a Peyton, will you go unplug that? I think it's plenty warm in here now, I think, anyway. There. I was muted still. So, all right, we have Zacchaeus in a tree, a massive crowd, and Jesus knows exactly who this man is. He knows him by name. He calls him by name. But not just that, Jesus then invites himself to Zacchaeus' house. He says, I must stay in your house today. Not I'd like to, or not would it be okay. He doesn't say that. He says, I must stay at your house. Like it's not even a question. Like Jesus already had an appointment on his calendar to do that. Now I'm guessing there's plenty of times that Zacchaeus didn't want his name to be known. Probably by the very people whose money he had taken, whose families he had hurt. When you're that hated, sometimes anonymity sounds pretty good. But not today. Today, Zacchaeus is over the moon excited because Jesus knows his name. Verse 6 says, Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house in great excitement and joy. So he did it at once. He did it gladly. He scrambles down from the tree with joy because Jesus, the rabbi who everybody's been talking about, the miracle worker, the one who speaks with authority, Jesus knows his name. And love starts with a name. Let's look at what happens in verse 7. The crowd starts saying, he's gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner. And so the crowd's ticked off. They're grumbling, they're outraged. How could Jesus go to his house? Doesn't he know that that's the chief tax collector? That's the guy who has been stealing from us. Why would Jesus honor him like that? To the crowd, Zacchaeus was just a category. He was a sinner. He was a tax collector, a traitor, a thief. But to Jesus, he's Zacchaeus. He's a man with a name, a story, and a soul. The crowd labeled him. Jesus used his name. And that's where it gets personal for us. Because if Jesus knows the name of a guy like Zacchaeus, the chief jerk of Jericho, then Jesus knows the name of the people in our lives too. Let me get specific. I might start stepping on some toes here, but Jesus knows the name of your ex, or the person that hurt you, or your coworker who thinks completely differently than you politically. But he also knows the name of your kind neighbor. He also knows the name of that neighbor that's maybe a little strange. He knows the name of your spouse. He knows the name of your the spam callers on your phone. Yes, even those people. He knows the name of all the know-it-alls on social media who drive you crazy, of those random strangers that cross your path every single day, that homeless guy on the street corner, that addict that you can't stand. Jesus knows their name. Do we? Maybe more importantly, do we even want to? Because here's what happens when you learn somebody's name. When we put names with faces, they are no longer just faces in a crowd. They become human. They become real. The name gives that person a value, and we can no longer just dismiss them. And that truth can be hard to swallow. Their lives have the same value as ours. Now, the world might say otherwise. The crowds around us might shout something different, but our heart and our own hearts may want to argue. But Jesus knew Zacchaeus' name. He knows your name, he knows my name, and he knows the names of the people that we would rather ignore or write off. To the crowd, Zacchaeus was a sinner, a tax collector, a category, a problem. But to Jesus, he was a man, a soul, and someone worth knowing. Love starts with a name, and love pronounces value over a person and sees who they are. And so let me ask you a question. Do you want to know the simplest way that you could love somebody? Get to know their name. Know their name, and then get to know the person and the story behind that name. And that sounds simple, doesn't it? Almost too simple. But think about it. This is exactly what Jesus did with Zacchaeus. He didn't just know about him, he knew him. He knew his name, and that changed everything. And here's what I've discovered. A lot of us say we want to be used by God. We say we want to make a difference. We pray prayers like, God, use me, show me how to serve you, help me to love people the way that you love them. But then, we don't even know anyone's name. Want to be used by God? Know their name. Want to help someone? Know their name. Want to point someone to Jesus? Know their name. Want to change someone? Know their name. Want to change the world? Know their name. We can't love people that we don't know. We can't serve people who are invisible to us, and we can't point people to Jesus if we haven't even bothered to learn who they are. And the uncomfortable truth is many of us don't know the names of the people that we see every single week or even every single day. We don't know the names of our neighbor, the one whose house we walk past multiple times. We don't know the name of the person who bags our grocery at the store we go to. Or if you're like me, you just skip the line and go to the self-checkout so you don't have to talk to anybody. That way you can just get out of there. We don't know the name of the person that makes our coffee if we show up to a coffee shop. These are all people we see, people we encounter regularly, people who are right there in front of us, and we have no idea what their names are. Why? Well, it's because learning someone's name requires something of us. It requires us to slow down, to pay attention, to actually see the person standing in front of us instead of just moving through our day on autopilot. It requires us to quit seeing as people as an inconvenience. It requires us to be intentional. And intentionality takes effort. But here's what you hear, what I want you to hear. This is how Jesus loved Zacchaeus. Jesus was intentional. He slowed down. He looked up into the tree in the middle of a crowd, and he said a name, Zacchaeus. And that moment changed Zacchaeus' entire life. And so here's my challenge for you today. I'm going to be really specific because vague challenges lead to vague results. So in the next 6 hours, not just sometime today, but in the next 6 hours, get to know someone's name. Someone in your immediate community. Not somebody you already know, not your spouse or your kids or your best friend, someone new. Someone whose name you don't currently know. Maybe it's your neighbor. Maybe it's the person at the grocery store. Maybe it's someone you see at the gym or at your kid's school or at the gas station you always go to. For you kids, maybe it's somebody at school that you walk past in the hallway every day but have never introduced yourself to. And here's what I want you to do, just 3 simple steps. 1, get to know their name. Introduce yourself. Hi, I'm John. I realize that we see each other all the time, but I don't think I've ever gotten your name. It's not complicated, but it does require you to initiate. 2, ask about their story. Where are they from? How long have they lived there? How are you doing? I mean, really doing. You don't have to get their entire life story in 5 minutes, but ask a question. Show genuine interest. Let them know that they matter enough for you to ask. And then pray for them. Maybe right there in the moment, or maybe later in your car, or at home, or before you go to bed. Pray for them by name. Pray for their family. Pray for whatever they shared with you. And now I know what you're thinking. Some of you are thinking, because I'm thinking the same thing, because I'm an introverted person, and I don't like talking to people. Nothing against any of you all. Especially new people. You're thinking, Pastor, I've got enough going on in my own life. I've got my own problems, my own stress, my own baggage. I don't have room for somebody else's stuff. And I get it. I really do. Life is heavy. You're carrying a lot, but what Jesus shows us in this story is sometimes we need to take a step further than just knowing someone exists. Sometimes we need to put others before ourselves. And in fact, Jesus talks about just that. He talks about how the least is going to be the greatest and the greatest will be the least. What I've noticed is people want to get to know the name of the mayor or be friends with the successful business person or the influential leader or the person who can do something for them. But the person Jesus is most focused on is often the person who is nameless to everyone else. The person nobody notices, the person everyone overlooks, the person up in the tree just hoping to catch a glimpse of something or someone better. Jesus would tell us, get to know that person's name. Ask about their story. Pray for that person, because love starts with a name. And I know this isn't easy. Remembering a name takes time, it takes practice, it takes intentionality. But what you'll notice when you start doing this, you'll notice how people perk up when they hear their own name. You'll see something light up in their eyes when you remember it the next time you see them. Hey, Sarah, good to see you again. John, how's your daughter doing? I know you mentioned she had that big test. And when you do this, you're not just remembering information, you're telling that person that they matter. You're saying, you're not invisible. You're not just a face in the crowd. You're important enough for me to remember. And as you learn about their story, where they're from, what they're going through, you will then be able to pray for them more specifically and their families. And you will start to see them the way that Jesus sees them. A name is a doorway, remember? And once you walk through that door, an entire world opens up. So again, the challenge is get to know somebody by name. Ask their story, where they're from, how they're doing, and pray for them. And maybe today, as you leave here, take a moment in your car and ask God if there's an action you're supposed to take from there. Maybe He will put somebody on your mind that you're supposed to help in some way, or to invite them to something, or to follow up with them. And if He does that, great, do it. But the very first step in that is simply knowing their name. Because no matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter what you do, this is something we can all do. We can do this today. I can do this today. You can do this today. It all starts with a name. Because love starts with a name. And I'll be honest with you, I preached this message last night and stopped by Walmart, and I did the exact same thing that I do every time. I picked it up, ignored everybody else, checked out, other than I saw Freeman and Stacy and said hi to them. That's true. Actually, I said hi to her first. You weren't paying attention. So I get it. I mean, I understand it's hard. And I need to work on this myself. Let's start back where we started. I asked you how many of you struggle to remember people's names. And I told you that I do because I know that when you remember someone's name, you're telling them they matter. We saw that Jesus didn't just work hard to remember Zacchaeus' name, He already knew it. In a crowd of hundreds of people, Jesus looked up into a tree and said, Zacchaeus, one name, one moment, one life changed forever. Because love starts with a name. Think about what happened in that moment. Zacchaeus wasn't expecting it. He just wanted to see Jesus from a distance, maybe catch a glimpse or hear Him teach or get close enough to feel like he was a part of something good for once in his life. But Jesus did more than let Zacchaeus see Him. Jesus saw Zacchaeus. He knew his name. He invited Himself to His home, and Jesus treated him like a person, not a problem, not a category, not a sinner, but a person with a name and a story and a soul worth saving. And let's look at what happened. Verse 8, it says, meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, I will give half my wealth to the poor, Lord, and if I have cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much. That's the power of being known, the power of being seen. This is what happens when someone looks at you, really looks at you and says your name with love instead of contempt. Zacchaeus didn't change because Jesus preached at him. He didn't change because Jesus condemned him or lectured him or told him all the ways that he was screwing up his life. Zacchaeus changed because Jesus knew his name. And then listen to what he says in verse 9. Salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. And verse 10 goes on to say Jesus came to seek and save the lost. But that seeking begins with a name. Saving begins with seeing someone as a person, not a category. And so just remember as you leave today, a name isn't a label. A name is a doorway. And Jesus is inviting you to walk through that door with people in your life. Your neighbors, your coworkers, those strangers that you see every week, people that you would rather avoid. Jesus knows their name, and he's asking you to learn them too. Because the truth is you might be the only person who looks at them and really sees them today. You might be the only person who asks their name, who shows interest in their story, who makes them feel like they matter. And that simple act of learning a name could change everything for them and for you. No matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, this is all something that every single one of us can do. And it may be harder for some than others. But you can do this today. And I can do this today. It starts with a name, because love starts with a name. So get to know someone's name. Ask about their story. Pray for them. That's it. 3 simple steps. But I promise you, if you do this, you will start seeing people the way that Jesus sees them. You'll start loving people the way that Jesus loves them. And who knows, maybe you'll be the Jesus moment in somebody else's story. Maybe you'll be the one who looks at them and says their name and changes their life forever. Because love has a name. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for knowing our name. Lord, we thank you for seeing us when we feel invisible. Thank you for loving us when we feel unlovable. And Lord, I pray that you give me the courage, give others the courage to love others the way that you love us. Lord, help us to slow down, to pay attention, to learn names and the stories of the people that you've placed in our lives. Help us to see them the way that you see them, to love them the way that you love them. Lord, names matter. It makes us feel important and loved and not invisible anymore. And Lord, I know for me personally, a lot of my life I've felt that way. Even invisible to you. And Lord, I pray if there's anybody here today or watching this later that doesn't feel like you know them or love them, that they would hear this, that Jesus knows your name and he knows your story. No matter how bad it was, no matter how good it was, he knows it and he loves you anyway. The only thing you need to do is confess with your mouth that he is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead. And the Bible tells us if we do that, we will be saved. And I know that's a big ask for some of us because of hurts and things like that in our lives. And Lord, I just pray that we'd be willing to take that step. So, Lord, as we go, Lord, I pray that we would each get to learn somebody's name today. Somebody that we don't know. Somebody maybe we've never even met before. And Lord, I pray that you help the people like me that struggle doing that to step out of our own introvertedness and our own rush to get around and to take that time. Lord, I pray that you protect us from the spiritual attacks of the enemy as we head out into this dark world. And Lord, I pray that you keep us safe and you keep us healthy as we return here next week. We ask this all in your mighty name. Amen. All right, well, thank you for joining us this week. Hopefully I didn't step on your toes too much. Mine are hurting bad from my own stepping, so have a great week.